Hello. I see we are live on, we're live on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and go live on Facebook as well. Let's see. How do we do that? Go live. Okay. Hello and welcome. Welcome to another Thursday night book chat, financial empowerment book chat for women. This is women's empowerment. This is Women's Financial Empowerment Group. And I'm your host, Ruth Agbeloso. And we are live on Facebook and we're also live on YouTube. So welcome. Hi, Lane. Good to see you. Or not see you, but see your emojis. Right, just waiting for a few more people to come on. Oh, I thought I turned my sound off on my phone. Let me turn on my do not disturb. Okay. Thought I had that on already. All right. Just waiting for a couple more people to get on. How was your day today, Lane? Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Ugh. Blocking my screen. Okay. Oh, you hear me. Awesome. Wow, you painted. Great. That's always fun. Did the kids help? Oh, okay. So it was a job. Okay, awesome. I'm glad you had a good day. I had a good day as well. I was a little bit nervous having allergies and going out into the public because, you can't be any type of sick or struggling or else, they might think you have the Rona. So I was very nervous about sneezing or anything like that. But I do have allergies and they act up from time to time. This year has been a little bit weird because normally it's in the spring, but it came a little bit in the spring and then I was fine. And then, I don't know, it just keeps coming and going. I think I need to wipe my lens off. Can you see me clearly? Yes, Lane says, I'm afraid to even cough once in the store. My allergies are bad this year too. Yes, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just wiping it just in case. Oh, that was crazy. Yeah, I'm usually, sometimes I'm totally fine. And it's like, as soon as I get into a store, then I feel a sneeze coming up and I'm like, oh my gosh. this is not good. I'm like so nervous, like, oh no, I cannot believe I'm like actually sneezing right now or about to sneeze. They're gonna like jump me or something. I don't know. It's a scary, scary time. And you don't know where people's heads are at. So a little sneeze from allergies could get you jumped. Yeah, I know, right? Lane says, every time I walk in, I feel like coughing. Oh my gosh, that is the honest truth. Every time when I go into Kroger, and I haven't been for a couple of weeks now, but whenever I go into Kroger, immediately I feel like I'm going to sneeze or cough. I don't know if I feel like it's psychological. Like, because I was fine before, but for some reason, as soon as I get in the store, I don't know if it's just thinking about the whole thing, everyone wearing masks or whatever, I automatically feel like I'm going to sneeze or cough. It's crazy. And like I said, I don't want to get jumped. So I try my best to not sneeze or cough in public. But if I have to, of course, I'm a little bit extra with how I cover myself. I'm all to make sure no one thinks I want to like sneeze on them or cough on them. Anyway, welcome. If you're just joining us, this is Women's Financial Empowerment Group. This is our weekly book chat. We did not meet last week. We finished the previous book the week before. We took a week off. Were we off for 1 week or 2 weeks, Lane? I feel like it was 1 week, but it could have been 2 weeks. No, I think it was 1 week. Yeah, 1 week, I think. It was 2 weeks? Okay. I lose track. Yeah, Lane says, I've been thinking the same thing, psychological. Yeah, so you feel sick immediately when you see people wearing masks and stuff when you step into the store. And that's horrible because you're trying not to appear sick, but you're appearing sick. And I'm not sick. It's just I have allergies that just happen to come on. And then it's like I'm nervous because I don't want anyone to think I'm sick. But anyway, glad you had a good day. So good thing is that we're already social distancing. So if you hear me sneeze, you do not have to worry because it cannot come through the computer. Oh my gosh. Anyway, gonna open my window, feeling a bit hot. Anyway, thank you so much for coming in. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We don't have all of our usuals, but it's okay. You know, sometimes people get held up in traffic or dinner or whatever the case may be. And sometimes even I have technical difficulties, but so far, knock on wood. Actually, I better find my charger that I thought I had. Oh, sugar. I left it. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to grab that charger because this computer is finicky. It's an old computer. And sometimes, okay, let's see what I'm going to put over the computer. And sometimes if you don't plug it into the charger, it dies like nobody's business. Like it dies super fast. So covering the screen for a second. And I'm going to just go grab that charger. Okay. And of course, I did not cover the one on Facebook, but that's okay. I have nothing to hide. Okay. Here we go. All right. Are we ready to get started? Don't know who all is on, but I don't want to be too long. So I want to go ahead and get started. Okay. So one person said they see me on. Hi, Harumi. So you're on YouTube, but it's not so clear. How about you, Lane? Is it clear? Is it smooth on your end? If it's smooth and we're good to go, then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm moving around my phone so that whoever's watching on Facebook, or if they watch the replay, it'll give them a better view. If you're watching the replay of this, thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead and give this video a like, a share. Please subscribe if you haven't, because that really helps this channel. Invite your friends. Even if they could only stay for a little while, they might pick up something that might help them along the way. And you know what I always say, sharing is caring, right? Okay, so Lane says it's good here. So she's not having any difficulty seeing or hearing me. So we're going to go ahead and get started, because I don't want this to be very long, even though, like I say, from 9 to 10, but I don't think we're going to be on for an hour each time. So let me just show everyone, if you did not read the description and you don't know what book we're covering, we are doing, and of course it's backwards on your screen. Okay, sorry, don't want to neglect Facebook. So here is the book, Smart Women Finish Rich by David Bach. Or am I pronouncing that right? Hopefully. So here's the book, and of course on your screen it looks backwards, and I don't know how to do anything about that. So anyway, Smart Women Finish Rich. So if you haven't yet purchased this book, go ahead and purchase it. So far it looks pretty good, but this is my first time reading it. I read a ton of reviews, listened to some reviews before choosing this book. It was recommended by one of my listeners, and so I wanted to honor her by trying it out. There are so many books out there. He actually has written several books. So it's backwards on it looks backwards to you guys, but the point is I'm just sharing what the cover basically looks like. So if you're looking for it. But yeah, he's written several books. He's all about empowering women. And at first I was thinking to myself, like, a man is empowering women? Like, what? Like, why? Like, I didn't really get it. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. So Harumi, have you figured out the chat yet? If you haven't, you could always chat on Facebook if you want to. But I just want to welcome you. I hope you had a good day. And if you want to chat, hop on Facebook if you're not able to get into the chat on YouTube, because, I really can't explain to you. I don't have an iPhone, so I really don't know how to explain other than share a video or something of how to get into the chat. But anyway, so I was wondering, what can this man teach me or teach us about a woman's perspective? Like, what can he share with women that wouldn't seem kind of like pompous? So, anyway, but so far so good. So what motivated him to start working with women and empowering women was his relationship with his grandmother. His grandmother was someone who she invested. She didn't make a ton of money, but she was the one who led him to his first investment. And, he just had this idea that women knew what they were doing. They knew all about money, and he was convinced that women were just like his grandmother. So to his surprise, he found out that a lot of women were not like his grandmother. And in fact, a lot of women lacked financial literacy. And so he began his quest to educate women on finances and empower them to take charge of their finances, which is what I do. And if you're a part of my private group, you know that that's something that I do almost daily in that group. And so far we've had two people who have come forward, and they are debt free, and we celebrate them because that's a wonderful thing. So anyway, that's my purpose, as well as David's, to empower women to be able to manage your own finances, because it's important. And okay, so let me just say this super quick before I get into the introduction to the book. So when I say manage your own finances, like if you're married or in a partnership or whatever the case may be, don't think that I'm saying take your own money and go over here or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But you definitely want to know where's the money, how to manage it, all of that. And he'll get into that in the book. And I also talk about that in videos and in my private Facebook group. And if you're just joining me, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, and all of those wonderful things. My name is Ruth Agbeloso, and this is Women's Financial Empowerment Group. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So like I said, he was influenced by his grandmother and just thinking that all women were like his grandmother, knowing about finances. And he was really surprised and shocked and amazed that they weren't. Okay. So what we're going to cover this week is just the introduction and chapter 1. The introduction was not one that I wanted to skip over. Sometimes I kind of just skip over the introduction, but I felt like the introduction was worth, reading. So that was chapter 1. And then step 1 was chapter 2. So in his book, he outlines 8 steps. Okay, so he has an 8-step program. And so there's a lot of pages, a lot of activities and things like that. And then there's a bonus chapter at the end. So what we're going to try to do is see if we can cover at least 2 of the chapters per week if we can. Some of them are quite lengthy, some of them are shorter. So we'll see how we can go about doing it. What he recommends is that when you read his book, that you don't run through, but you reread the chapters. So feel free to do that. Even if you don't quite keep up with us, I wouldn't worry about that too much. You can always go back and, you could always get to our point at some point. So feel free to really dive into whatever chapter, you feel you really need to, because this is really like a workbook. Think of this as a workbook. It's not just a storybook where we could just skip through and just say, yeah, that was cool, whatever, and move on. But there's a lot of activities and things that are in this book, as I mentioned before. All right. So I took a few notes. Those of you who read the book, please feel free to chime in as I go along, because this is not all about me, but it's a chat, right? So we're going to communicate with each other. So hopefully those of you who knew about it ahead of time, you read. And if you didn't, it's all good. I'm not going to rehash the whole entire book, like I've said in previous chats. I'm just going to pick apart like little bits and pieces here and there. All right. So like I said before, he noticed a lack of financial literacy among women. And, that's the same thing with me. I noticed that. Okay. And so he said that there's a stereotype that men are the ones who can manage the money. And he put it as being able to play the game. And that women, the stereotype is that women don't have what it takes to play the game. But, it's a stereotype. So that doesn't mean that that is the truth. It just means that that's what has been perpetuated through the years. And now we see that, women have really taken off and made strides in so many different areas. But unfortunately, this is an area that we're super duper behind in still. And he goes into that a lot more in the book. He said that women have a fear of dealing with their finances. And I've definitely found that to be the case. Once upon a time, that was the case with me. And well, I wouldn't even say I feared. I wouldn't say I feared, because I was a personal financial analyst. So I didn't fear my own finances. I just deferred them to my spouse, because I felt he got it. He's really great with numbers, whatever. But a lot of women genuinely just fear it because they really don't understand. And they know that money is this big thing. We need money for so many things. So, it can be kind of like daunting. And if you don't have to deal with it, you don't want to deal with it, kind of thing. But unfortunately, that's not a good move. If you are avoidant, that means you're just you're sort of like delaying the pain, but you're going to feel the pain regardless. Right? That makes sense, right? All right. Remember, chime in wherever if you read this, or even if you didn't and you have a thought, feel free to share either on Facebook or here on YouTube. All right. So he says that his book is should be thought of as a financial roadmap. And like I said before, it has 8 steps. But he also says that you don't have to do all the steps. If you do all the steps, it would be great. But if you're not able to if you don't end up doing all the steps, you're still going to be much better off than you are right now financially. And you don't have to do them one after the other, like in order, but he recommends doing them in order from 1 to 8. So, that's what he says. So he says he implores women to take charge of their finances, which is what I said before. All right. So I'm ahead of my notes. So I'm looking back and I'm like, man, I already said that. Okay. So I'm going to go straight into the first chapter now, and that is step 1. Now, if you read this, let me know what was your first thought when you read step 1 or when you saw step 1 in this book. Feel free to share. And I'll share with you what I was thinking. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share while you're typing. So what I was thinking when I saw, first of all, let me say what step 1 is. Wouldn't that be nice? In case you haven't read it yet. Okay, learn the facts and myths about your money. That's step 1. Now, when I saw that, I was kind of thinking to myself, what? How is that a step? Like, we all know stuff. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Let me take my financial coach hat off for a second and remember that there are a lot of myths and a lot of people believe them. And that's why they're in the situation they're in. That's why I was in the situation I once was. So, it is important for us to know what the truth is and what the lies are. Right? It's very important. Hold on, let me see if I'm missing any comments. No, I'm not. Okay. All right. Again, welcome. If you're just coming on, please go ahead and like this video, share, comment, all that wonderful thing. All those wonderful things. Okay. So step 1 is learn the facts and myths about your money. Okay. So he shared various scenarios of women who did not take charge of their money. And he said that the first fact is that planning ahead is most important for women. I was surprised that he said that. I know that it's very important, but I really didn't even think about it like the way how he put it. So I'm going to read a few points from page 20 to 21. So the first thing he says, fair or not, women need to do more financial planning than men. And then he talks about, how, women have been held back for a long time, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, women still typically earn just 80% what men do. And that's, what have we been fighting for, right? What have women been fighting for equal pay? And some people might look at it like this, like, why equal pay? I mean, the man is the one taking care of the home. But we all know that everyone doesn't have that sort of situation anymore. A lot of times there's single mother-led homes, there's divorcees, there's widows, etc. So it's not fair. Would you agree that it's not fair that women still earn 80% of what men do? So that's one of the things that he mentioned. He also mentions here that women are the ones hurt most by corporate downsizing. And he says that's because it takes women longer to find new work, and the replacement jobs women get are often part-time posts that offer less pay and fewer benefits. As a result of all this, you have less money available to put away in a 401k or other retirement account, which is why Vanguard reports that, on average, women have accumulated 34% less money in their retirement accounts than men. But it's not simply that, as a woman, you'll have a smaller retirement income to look forward to. It's also that as a woman, you'll have to make that income go further. Why is that? Because we tend to live longer than men. So just imagine you're making less money, you're putting away less money, but you have to make that money stretch further because you're living longer. And Lane says, totally not fair. Yeah. I really can't wrap my mind around why we're still making significantly less. I don't know. But you see why it's important for, yeah, 30, yeah, 30, well, he says 34%. But yeah, it's a significant amount less that women have put aside for retirement. And I do agree with that. I know several women who have outlived their husbands, including my own mother. So I can see that it's definitely true, unless there's like a chronic disease or an accident. More than likely, the woman is going to live longer than her spouse or partner or what have you. So we definitely need to take retirement planning seriously and know that just because you're elderly doesn't mean you stop eating, right? I mean, just because you're elderly doesn't mean you stop living somewhere and having some sort of bill to pay, even if someone else is paying it. So to me, it's a real problem. And he's talking about solutions. And I also talk about solutions because it's important for us to empower ourselves so that we can have a future that we design. I'm all about designing your future, not just letting life happen to you, but you figuring out what type of life you want to have. And as women, we're totally capable. I mean, we've proven that we're so smart. So it's not a matter of smarts, is it? No, it's not. It's just not about smarts. But unfortunately, we're just not doing it. All right, let me stick to my notes so I can move on. All right, here. Now we're gonna talk about some myths. Okay. All right. So the myth number one is make more money and you'll be rich. Have you heard that one before? Has anyone heard that one before? Make more money and then you'll be rich. I've definitely heard that one before. All my life, probably. Like you have to make a certain amount of money and then you'll be rich. But what he says is that's a myth because, in fact, what determines your wealth is not how much you make, but how much you keep of what you make. And I remember a company that I used to work with, a financial services company, we always used to say, it's not about how much money you make, but it's how much you save. And that is a big deal because, we see people who are rock stars and rappers and athletes and whatever that make tons of money and they end up broke. Right. Lane says not. The more you earn, the more you spend. Yes, for a lot of people, that is the mentality that the more they make is the more they spend. And that's why they end up, broke, mismanaging those funds. And so that's why I work with people to get their financial houses in order because it doesn't matter if you have 6 figures or if you have 8 figures or what have you, you could still end up broke. You could still end up in retirement and not have enough money to live the life that you want to live. And you're at the mercy of whomever. And that's really sad. And it's more so sad for women, like we said before, because we tend to outlive men. So we tend to live long. And so if we don't have enough funds saved up in our retirement, then, we're a mess. Like, yeah, there's always going to be Walmart, I think, where you can get a job. Nothing, no knock in that. And some people actually just choose to work there because they just want to work. But some people have no choice. When they hit retirement, then they have to get a job. And that is not the point of retirement for a lot of people. All right. He says he believes that most Americans who think they have an income problem actually don't. And you may not believe that it's possible. Sorry, you may not believe that. It's possible you feel you have an income problem yourself. Now, I remember mentioning that in my latest video about budgeting, you know, that when you have a budget, then you can figure out what the problem is, because the problem isn't always income. So it was great to see that he brought this out here, because a lot of people just think, hey, if I just get another job, oh, if I just get another whatever. But a lot of times that's not the case. He also says, in fact, the average American works a total of some 90,000 hours in his or her life and has nothing to show for it at the end. Just imagine. That just sounds sad. I feel sad when I hear that, because, to work for so many hours, and I know people that don't take days off, they just work, 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 and to know at the end you don't really have anything to show for it, or not much to show for it, it's pretty sad. According to a recent report by Go Banking Rates, 42% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. That's $10,000 is really not a lot of money, honestly. If you think it's a lot of money, comment below. Because $10,000, you could blow that quite quickly. I mean, just think if you have to pay for, if you have to pay for a place to live. A lot of elderly people are on medication. The medication alone can wipe that out. All right. So he says, the problem is not our income, it's what we spend. And then he talks about, okay, yeah, I didn't want to get into all of that. All right. So on page 26, he has a earnings outlook chart, and he talks about, your monthly income by year. So he says, how much money will pass through your hands during your lifetime, and what will you do with it? So this is just an illustration. So if your monthly income is $1,000, by 10 years, you would have had $120,000, and all the way up to 40 years, you'd have $480,000. So what will you do with that money? So it's something to think about. And if you have the book, you can, read more in depth. It is a long chart, so I don't want to go through the whole thing. And then he says, so he gives a scenario: small hat, lots of cattle. And I want to read this because this really resonates with me. What I see working with people, it's kind of sad, but let me read it. Well, this is the sad part, but it gets better. So here are some findings by Stanley. Okay. The average net worth of a millionaire is $3.7 million. That's the average net worth. The average millionaire lives in a house that costs $320,000. Honestly, I lived in a house that costs way more than that years ago. Okay. Anyway, the average millionaire's taxable income is $131,000 a year. For the most part, millionaires describe themselves as tightwads. You know what that means. They don't want to spend on anything, right? Who believe that charity begins at home. Most millionaires drive older, American-made cars. Only a minority drive new cars or ever lease their cars. Fully half of the millionaires Stanley surveyed never paid more than $399 for a suit. So just imagine that. These people are millionaires, and this is the way they're spending their money. Millionaires are dedicated investors, on average, investing nearly 20% of their total household income each year. Wow. How did you feel when you read that? I mean, certainly you could think of someone who is not a millionaire and they had to have a new car. They're not a millionaire, but they had to have a really expensive house. You know, our spending habits definitely have a lot to do with where we are at this point. And he says the fact is, what has allowed most of these people to become millionaires is not how much they've made, but how little, relatively speaking, they've spent. So that was whew, whew, that was not a shocker because I've heard it before, but it was still like, wow. The opposite is so true. I see it every single day. People who make a lot less, but they're spending a lot more. And he says, spend more than you make, and you'll have a serious problem, right? Yeah, this first one is, it just really gives the sad truths and the myths. But like I said, it does get better. All right, let's move on to myth number 2. And this is a big one, and please, if you haven't read this book yet, this is going to be a little bit depressing, but just hang on in there, you'll be okay. Myth number 2: my husband or some other man, woman, whatever, will take care of me. That is myth number 2. He says it's neither safe nor practical to assume that the man in your life can be counted on to take care of your finances. I know that's rough, especially if you are, married or in a partnership. It's really hard to hear that, but fact is, it you just can't really rely on someone else to take care of you. And that's not to say that if you live with, your husband, that he's not going to support you or anything like that. But putting all your trust in someone else to make sure that you have what you need, that's a risky business right there. Okay, and what did I want to share about that? Okay, page 31. Okay, you're already. Now feel free to chime in. You're too quiet. If you've read this, go ahead and share what you felt about some of these myths, because some of them, they really make you stop and think. All right. So he talks about how many men have mismanaged family funds, and a lot of women. Okay, Lane says, yeah, like what if your husband dies or leaves? Exactly. Then you're toast. And that's what happens to many, many women. It's actually very common. Even in today's day and age, it's very common for women to end up in a very sad situation because they put all of their trust in their husbands. And even though they may have a wonderful, wonderful relationship, but yeah, divorce happens, right? People die, and sometimes when they die, everything is not in order. And then, what then you're stuck at that point. You can't even, he says, you can't even rely on Social Security, because some people think that, hey, I'll get my Social Security. We hope that it's going to be there, and we hope that it's going to be a certain amount, but it may not be. And he recommends that we sign up for a My Social Security account at www.ssa.gov/my account/. And the purpose of doing that is to track how much your earnings are and all of that good stuff, your Social Security earnings and what have you, because you don't want to be surprised when retirement comes, when you have less money than you thought you had, or what have you. You just want to be prepared, so it's good to have that. And then he says, when it comes to divorce, women still end up with the short end of the stick, and that is the honest truth right there. A lot of women end up losing the home that they, lived in, took care of, whatever the case may be, because let's face it, if they're relying on their husband's income and they no longer have that, then they're not in a situation where they can afford that house anymore. They lose their house. They have to go live in an apartment or a much smaller house or what have you, you know. And you might think that, hey, you're divorced, so you get to have this amount of the money and whatever, but it doesn't always work out like that. As a matter of fact, more times than not, you don't end up getting a huge sum of money. And there's expenses and stuff, so that money's not going to last anyway, aside from divorce. But he also says the average age of widowhood today is just 59 years old. So a lot of women end up as widows, and that is also a situation that's really grave for women. They lose a lot. And he shared a story here of a woman whose husband died, and she ended up almost bankrupt. He made certain moves with his money. So even though he was a successful lawyer, but he made certain moves with the money, and then when he died, everything kind of like fell apart. She had no idea what he had done, but unfortunately, she had to suffer the consequences after he died. So that's just a painful reality that happens to a lot of people. You put all your trust in hubby or whoever, and then they let you down because they're not really managing the money the right way. And you didn't take out the time to sit with them and find out, what's going on with the money. What are we doing? What should we do? Asking questions and being involved. Yeah, that's super, super duper important. All right, let's see what my next. Okay, so the next myth is the government finally has gotten inflation under control. Now we know that that is a myth, and if you don't know that that's a myth, let me tell you it's a myth. So, cost of living, has it gone up? Definitely. I feel like it's so unfair sometimes because the cost of living, the cost of everything is going up, but the amount that people are getting paid isn't going up at the same rate. I feel like inflation should affect your pay so that your pay goes up with inflation, but unfortunately it doesn't really work. It doesn't work like that in most cases. And even if you get a raise, it's not by a whole bunch. All right. Inflation causes trouble in retirement if you're on a fixed income. So just imagine that, inflation, goes up like 2% or 3% or what have you per year or per couple of years or what have you, and you retire and you have a set amount, that money is not it's not moving with inflation. That means you have less and less money each year, and it's sad. It's sad because $100 now is not going to be worth the same amount in 10 years. Okay. Any questions, comments about that? And that is the last myth that he talks about. And I'm gonna if there's no questions or whatever, I'll talk a little bit about the chart. So there's a chart on page 37. It's a consumer prices sticker shock since 2000. So I'll just go over it real quick. So typical prices for house, automobile, gasoline, stamp, and a day in the hospital. Oh my gosh, day in the hospital is scary, y'all. If you don't need to be in the hospital, don't go. Like, it's not a vacation spot. No, it's crazy. They charge a lot for every single thing. Anyway, I digress. So in 2000, a house, like an average cost of a house, would be $167,000. In 2010, 221,000. Lane says, I'm shocked seeing how little cars and homes cost then. Yes, yes. Yeah, I even remember, what do you call it? A gallon of milk when it was like less than $1. I don't drink milk now, but the last time I saw a gallon of milk, it was what, $2 or something? I don't know. It went up a lot over the years. Today, the average house price is $384,000, and it's projected that in 20 years it'll be $608,000. 682. Did I say that correctly? 608. 100,682. Wow, that's a big jump. Let me just pause here for a second and say welcome to everyone who's on. If you weren't here when I welcomed you before, welcome. Please go ahead and hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe. I really appreciate all of that. I appreciate having you here. We're here every Thursday night. Financial empowerment. We're discussing financial empowerment books. And yeah, it's been great. We like it. Hey, Kate. I'm looking over there at the words, but hey, Kate, nice to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Lane says my copy is an old one. It shows 1970 and 1980. Oh, could you share with us what it says for 1970 and 1980? Because I'm curious. I was born in the 70s, so I know that things were a lot cheaper then. And if I don't know. I don't know how anybody affords anything now. Everything is so expensive, especially in New York, where I grew up. I grew up in New York City, and I kid you not, every time when I have to go back there, I'm like, Lord, how do these people survive? Honestly, the bridge, the toll bridge, the prices are really high, and then you have to pay for the subway. You have to pay for parking, and everything is higher. Oh my gosh, it's scary. Yeah, go ahead and post if you can the house prices for 1970 and 1980 because I'd love to take a look at that. um, I'm curious about that. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and talk about. I'm not going to talk about all of them actually. Okay, so Lane says in 1970 a house average house was 25,600. Oh man, I wish we had a house back then. It would be worth like, I don't know, $1 million by now. Anyway, a car was 3,400. Wow. And that's a new car most likely. And a day in the hospital was $47. Gee. My goodness. That's crazy. In 1980, a house average house was $64,000, car 6,910, and day in the hospital 134. Listen, a day in the hospital today averages about $2,271, folks. That's why I said if you don't need to go to the hospital, don't go to the hospital. It's cheaper to spend a night in a hotel. Obviously, if you're sick, go to the hospital. But I'm just saying, like it's oh my gosh. People I mean, I'm laughing and stuff, but I'm not laughing at people or the situation. It's crazy. It's grave because a lot of people have not kept up with all of this. Their income is still super low or they're not saving, their money is not inflating. you know, just the cost of living is inflating. So it a lot of people are feeling the pinch. And he said the future is going to be expensive, and we already see that. We know that that's going to happen. All right, the last thing that I want to cover, the last section says, and sorry, I'm sniffling. If you were here from the beginning, you would know that I have allergies. This is not corona, and thankfully you couldn't get it anyway through the computer screen. But yeah, I'm okay, just allergies. All right. Now, last section here that I'm going to cover, show me the money. And this is what we were talking about before. A lot of women don't know about the family finances. Where is the money? What is going on? And the funny thing is that David found out. Oh, hold on. Let me pause for a second. If you just got on, we are reviewing. We are talking about Smart Women Finish Rich by David Bach, I believe it's pronounced. Bach. And I know this is backwards, but this is what the cover looks like. And we're discussing um, the introduction and chapter 1 this week, and we're almost done. Lane says, "Wow, this copy is from 2002, and here projected. Oh, and here projected a day in the hospital is 20 years, would be 1,872. Whoa! So we've surpassed that, eh? Dang. Yeah, we've surpassed that. We've definitely surpassed that. And when he says today, when was this book even published? This book was not published this year. This is not a new book. This was published in when was it published? It has so many pages. I can't even find the that information. Okay, so this was published in 2018. So this is still relatively new, but still, imagine in 2018 when he wrote this, or let's say he got the information in 2017. 2,271 is a lot. I don't even want to know what it is right now, especially with Corona. A hospital stay must be like really scary. I don't want to know actually. Today said 390 in mine. Lane says, what do you mean? Can you explain what you mean? Today said 390 in mine. I don't understand. Okay. So, so yeah, those prices are crazy. Things have gone up immensely already. All right. So I'm waiting for Elaine to explain what she meant. But in the meantime, I'm talking about show me the money. A lot of women do not know where the money is in the household, like what investments or if there are anything invested. They're more so concerned with, are we paying our bills? Like, is our light on? Is our mortgage paid? Rent paid? Whatever. Um, okay, Lane says a day in the hospital in 2002. Was it 390? 2002? Oh, that's weird. Okay, because in here it says 1,148. And then, of course, there are sources, so we could always fact check with the sources that are here, like U.S. Department of Housing, and there's a whole bunch of sources that we could check here. Hospital adjusted expenses per inpatient day, 2015. Yeah. All right. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that information, Lane. I don't know why I keep looking at, like, nodding my head at the words, because obviously you're looking at me here. Sorry about that, folks. All right. But yeah, it's crazy. So it's important for us to know where the money is in our household. I mean, it's not okay for us to just sit back and believe that everything is taken care of and we don't even know where it is because, like we said before, divorce happens, death happens, and when those things happen, they're not only emotionally devastating, but they can also be financially devastating if you're not prepared. So we're all about planning and preparing. So Elena's laughing. Yeah. So yeah, that's the show me the money part. Now at the end of the chapter on learn the facts and myths about your money, there's a quiz, the Smart Women Finish Rich Financial Knowledge Quiz. I suggest you do that quiz, and there's a way to score it. It says how to score it. And Lane, you could get with me if you don't have this in your book. I can we can talk about this because I think it's a really good quiz. And then you can score it and see if you did well or not, and see steps to take to make things better. And he does promise that things are going to get better later on in the book. I've read a little bit further on, so I can tell you, yes, they do. So anyway, I don't know. I think that this book so far, seems to be pretty good. A lot, very wordy. No offense, David, if you ever do watch this in the future, but yeah, I think there's a lot of nuggets in here. It's starting off kind of easing in, excuse me, kind of slowly. So if you this one is the 20th anniversary edition. That's what I'm reading from. So he has redone this, a few times. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's done this book again. You've got the quiz. Okay, awesome. So if you don't already have this book, go ahead and get this book. If you haven't liked this video, please go ahead and like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel. I post a lot of videos. I post once a week, and I also go live once a week doing the book chat. Women's Financial Empowerment Group. You can find me here or on Facebook. I also have a private Facebook group. If you are a woman, which I'm assuming most people that are watching this are, then you can join that group. You just have to agree to abide by the rules of the group. But it's definitely a place where um, we support each other. And a lot of people are shy, whatever, but we definitely celebrate each other in that group and empower each other to make good moves with our finances. And like I said earlier on in this chat, I've had 2 people so far in the group um, that are debt free, and we celebrated with them, and I just think it's a wonderful thing. So look for me on Facebook, Women's Financial Empowerment Group. That's my page name, and then the group name has in parentheses WFEG. So you'll be able to see the difference. So you can do both. You like my page, join my group, what have you, and let's go on this journey together. I'm a financial coach, and if you need a financial coach, if you need someone to help you on this journey, whatever your financial goals are, definitely check with me. My information is in the description box and other videos. I'm still kind of new here, so I'm so excited that you joined, and I hope you come again. I hope that you'll join us again next Thursday as we dive a bit deeper into this book. And, hopefully this book is transformative for you. I've heard a lot of great things about it, read a lot of reviews, and I like what I see. So hopefully this will be helpful. It's 9:57, so we're just gonna be done now. It was nice having you, wonderful having you. Nice to be able to hang out with adults, because I'm with children almost all the time. I love my children, but you know how that is. So anyway, thank you so much for watching and engaging and sharing and liking and all those good things. Okay, so that's it for us. If you have any questions or more comments, you can leave comments in the general comments section, and reach out to me if you need help or if you need to talk or whatever. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much. I'm Ruth, and have a good night. Take care. Bye. I want to say bye. Bye, Lane. Love you. Bye, everybody. Take care. Love you, Facebook.